I pray that you are feeling blessed and refreshed. Thank you so much for joining me today for a quick motivation. And as you can see by the title, it today we're looking at Second Chronicles, chapter 10, verses 1 through 14. I'm reading the New Living Translation, and it's encouraging us to have a humbling spirit. Chapter 10 reads, "The northern tribes revolt." Rehoboam went to Shechem, where all Israel had gathered to make him king. When Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard of this, he returned from Egypt, for he had fled to Egypt to escape from King Solomon. The leaders of Israel summoned him, and Jeroboam and all Israel went to speak with Rehoboam. "Your father was a hard master," they said. "Lighten the harsh labor demands and heavy taxes that your father imposed on us. Then we will be your loyal subjects." Rehoboam replied, "Come back in 3 days for my answer." So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam discussed the matter with the older men who had counseled his father Solomon. "What is your advice?" he asked. "How should I answer these people?" The older councils replied, "If you are good to these people and do your best to please them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your loyal subjects." But Rehoboam rejected the advice of the older men and instead asked the opinion of the young men who had grown up with him and were now his advisors. "What is your advice?" he asked them. "How should I answer these people who want me to lighten the burdens imposed by my father?" The young men replied, "This is what you should tell those complainers who want a lighter burden. My little finger is thicker than my father's wrist. Yes, my father laid heavy burdens on you, but I'm going to make them even heavier. My father beat you with whips, but I will beat you with scorpions." 3 days later, Jeroboam and all the people returned to hear Rehoboam's decision, just as the king had ordered. But Rehoboam spoke harshly to them, for he rejected the advice of the older counselors and followed the counsel of his younger advisors. He told the people, "My father laid heavy burdens on you, but I'm going to make them even heavier. My father beat you with whips, but I will beat you with scorpions." This word is already blessed by God. And today, it's interesting that I was brought here to Second Corinthians chapter 10, verses 1 through 14, because as I read it, there's so many different things that stuck out to me. But the main thing that stuck out was uh, having a humbling spirit. And for those of you who don't know, this particular part in the Bible is connected to Second Kings chapter 12, and they go hand to hand if you ever wanted to study, and that's because Rehoboam is the son of Solomon. Solomon was a well-known um, man in the Bible, and he had a hard time with his faith with Christ. But once he did become king, he did a lot of great things. Rehoboam had come to take the place of king after Solomon. So, uh, what was interesting was that when you look at 4, verse 4, where it talked about the people of Israel telling Rehoboam, Solomon's son, that his father Solomon was a very harsh master. He didn't give many chances. He made them work hard. He made them pay a lot of taxes, and they thought that they were a lot more loyal in, as his subjects than to be treated that way. So Rehoboam, um, he didn't have an answer for the Israelites right away. They're basically asking, "Can you please be more lenient on us?" And Rehoboam didn't have an answer right away. So he said in verse 5, "Come back in 3 days for my answer." So the people went away. And that's really smart of him, because if we're asked to do something, or if we're asked for our opinion or something, how many times do we actually say, "I'm not sure, let me think about that," or "Let me get back to you on that"? And it might not take 3 days, but how many times do we actually give ourselves some time to think about what it is that we're being asked to do before we just jump right into it? Most of the time, when we just jump right into it, it doesn't end well. it ends up maybe being frustrating or whatever that might be, and it just doesn't come out the right way. So then, if you look at verse 6, it says, Then King Rehoboam discussed the matter with the older men who had counseled his father. Solomon, what is your advice? He asked. How should I answer these people? So it's funny that in verse 6, King Rehoboam went to the elder men. These are elder advisors. Respected, these are respected men of God, men, and they have helped Solomon, which is this great king, this smart king. They have helped him and giving him advice in so many different things over his time of being king, which was a very long time. But even prior to Solomon, these counselors were older men, so they more than likely counseled people before Solomon. But it just shows you that their advice that they're giving would have been very credible. Um, and for King Rehoboam to go to them and ask them for their advice, he knows how credible they are. He knows how how they're going to help him make the right decision and not just make any decision when it comes to treating the people of the land better than his father treated them. So in verse 7, the older counselors replied, If you are good to these people and do your best to please them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your loyal subjects. So right there, the elders are telling us that these people they're great people, and you should not treat them as your father did. You should treat them better because they're good for it, basically. It's funny that Rehoboam went to his father's advisors and asked for their opinion, right? But then in chapter or verse 10, it says that the young man replied, This is what you should tell them, complainers who want a lighter burden. My little finger is thicker than my father's waist. Yes, my father laid heavy burdens on you, but I'm going to make them even heavier. My father beat you with whips, but I will beat you with scorpions. And it's interesting because right here is telling us that the men that Rehoboam knew in his past, the men who had not come not come the same not tread the same waters that he has treaded, they have not any more education or any more experience than he has. So how could they come along and tell Rehoboam to treat these people uh, treat these people bad? He's telling them to lay the burdens down even heavier. He's telling him to uh, beat them literally with scorpions. But these young men have no idea about life. When you have older advisors who are more have so much more wisdom telling you that this is what you should do, this is my advice, why would you go and take the advice of people who have never been there? So how could we go and ask for the opinion of people who are uh, they're where we used to be? They're not where we are going. Um, they're not on the right path. They do not have wisdom like elder advisors would have. This just goes to show you that Rehoboam thought that just because he was king that he didn't have to listen. Hmm. Just because he got to a certain status, he thought that he was he was covered. He thought that he could make all the decisions and that his will was the right way and that he was grown and that he didn't have any more growth to do. And that's incorrect. So that's where today's inspiration comes from, to have a humbling spirit, knowing that just because you've been doing this for 15 years or just because you have a family history of this or that doesn't mean that you are any better than anybody else. And if if you are if you're looking to advance in your life, if you're looking to grow in Christ, then know that God is going to send people to you who pour into you, who have been there. And most of the time, those people who have been there are trying to keep you from falling into the same traps of the enemy that they fell into. But if we're too big headed because we think we have a better status or because we think we have money, we'll never reap the rewards. That's not having a humbling spirit. So, long story short, if you were to continue to read this chapter, you would see that Rehoboam suffered a lot of different things, all because he thought that just because he was king, he was so much better than everybody else. So, I pray that you be encouraged by this, and I pray that you leave me a message. Leave me a comment afterwards and let me know what you think. Have the best rest of your day and stay blessed. Bye bye.